going through a lot of water. And they wanted this group of people to get on that ship. The guy said, I can't take them all. So he says, please. The one guy said, I'm a follower of Lama Rinpoche. And then they showed a picture, I don't know if that was him or not.
Well, Rinpoche is just a title. Lama is also a title. Rinpoche means precious, and it's a title given to people who are recognized reincarnations of a previous teacher. Zopa Rinpoche is a recognition of the Laudo Lama, previous lives. Others, if you're an abbot of a monastery, you get the name Ken Rinpoche. If you're a former abbot, you get the name Khensa Rinpoche. So names like that are not specific enough if you're talking about someone for anybody to know which one it is, because there are hundreds.
Right.
So there's no way of knowing.
That really caught my eye.
Yes, you'll see these. One time I was, is that on or not? It is on. Never mind. Say that for
Okay. Thanks. So let's take a few minutes to get to know our mind a little bit by just bringing our awareness away from all the thoughts about what we were just doing and all the thoughts about what we might do later, and just bring our awareness to what we're doing now. And an easy way to start that is just bringing attention to your body sitting here. And you can scan your body from top of your head to your toes, using the ability of your mind to know, to reflect, and just check in with your body for a moment. And you might want to take a few belly breaths. Try to expand your rib cage and let that breath feed all the parts of your body, easing any tension. And try to remember the reason you came this evening. And using that reason, try to generate a positive motivation and an intention to use your time well. So make your intention sort of match the reason you came so that they're congruent. Now try to think of some reasons why studying the mind might be useful to you. So with that in mind, gently bring your awareness back to the fact that there are other people around you. So why is studying the mind useful?
So you can reduce suffering.
And why would that be related? Why is reducing suffering related to the mind?
Well, it's our mind that creates distortions that make us unhappy, attachment to anger.
It's not the noise that we hear, which isn't noise, by the way, it's just sounds from the other room as they get settled in.
Not for me, it isn't. But
So this is that kind of, what we really want to become familiar with is really look at what goes on in our mind and see if we're jumping to conclusions that it's things outside of our mind that are impacting whether we're having a good moment or not, or whether it's really the way we're thinking about the moment, or not even noticing the moment because we're caught up in some other moment, whether it's the past or the future, So we really just want to get comfortable noticing, not worried about what you discover about the way you think, but just notice, and then see if there are patterns to it, and then see if then you think about it and think, well, is this particular pattern skillful or not skillful? And who does it need to be skillful for? You. So the benefactor, the main benefactor of looking at your mind is you. How, in what way does that end up benefiting others?
Because you no longer become the causes of the sense of overlaying patterns of other people.
Okay, how?
You're clear about what you are doing in the present moment. You're no longer the source of harm.
What if what you're doing in the moment is trying to get even?
There's a bunch of distortion.
Yeah. So observing what's going on in your mind isn't sufficient, So it really is about, observing what's there, recognizing what part our mind plays in the actions that follow from that mind, whether it's another moment of mind, but another moment of mind will definitely be there. But if we say anything or do anything, is it coming from that state of mind? And the more mindful we are, then that gives us more opportunity to choose whether to listen to what our mind is telling us or not. That's what you were saying. Basically, it's just that, the more we observe our mind and then reflect on it and see whether or not we think it's skillful, the more able we are to be we're reducing our own suffering, perhaps. We're at least now collecting the tools or the basis of which we can help reduce our suffering. And if we're coming from a more calm, peaceful, happy place, then our actions towards others, our speech towards others, are more likely to be helpful rather than harmful, or at least, kind, maybe, or at least maybe neutral, depending on where you're starting from. And of course, that just depends on the circumstances. We have a lot of different habits. Some of them are excellent habits, and others are ones that we're kind of embarrassed to realize we do a lot, even if it's just mental, we might not actually act on it, but we think, maybe sarcastic, judging things a lot. So, and we'd hate for someone to be able to read our mind in the moment. You know? So we want to look at those things. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important. So what is this assumption about observing the mind and the fact that it can reduce our suffering? What is the assumption? What's the belief there? If we, you know, one is that we must be able to change it. Otherwise, what difference does it make? If we can't do anything about it, then looking at it will probably just, you know, ruin our day. So it really is this, by observing, we're more likely to see the cause and effect from moment to moment. You know, that if you're already in a bad mood, you know, you wake up and, I don't know, you slept wrong and you just don't, you know, you're just not keen on the day. You know, you may notice how that, you know, filters into the way you're experiencing everything else that happens. And if you make an effort to kind of shake off that, you know, bad dream or just waking up funny, you know, that things start to improve. You know, or you just notice that it really does have an impact, you know, and you might discover you're sick. You know, you may realize, oh, I was catching a cold, you know. And then when you start feeling better and your mind's in a better place, you know, that also filters everything that we experience. So we want to see our habits and that, you know, so that's, you know, so this is why we want to study the mind. We really want to understand the cause and effect of our suffering with relation to mind. And of course, in Buddhism, it's taught that everything has to do with the mind. You know, our suffering is the result of our mind, of our past actions of body, speech, and mind. Mind and the intention we lead with being the most important factor. So, have y'all read the first reading, or I think it's the first one, it might be the first two, of that His Holiness wrote in the readings that I sent out the first night? It's a really good review of the mind. So I encourage you to read it because it really just is a very succinct way of, you know, kind of an overview of how the Buddhist presentation of the mind. So this is the last night of this module. So are there any questions that you want to bring? Do you have one? Nope. No questions? All right. Yes.
What is the book?
This course has readings that are assigned to it. So I can email them to you.
Okay.
But, you know, and then the book that was that one of the books for this? Yeah, Becoming Your Own Therapist. Make Your Mind as an Ocean.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's the definition of mind? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Clear light.
It's clear in knowing. Clear light is the nature of the mind. Okay, so there are four, what did I call them? No, that's not right. 4 features of the mind that are really emphasized in Buddhist thought because they're different from what we've been raised with thinking of the mind. And so one of them is what you just said, which I've already forgotten what you just said. It's non-physical. So what does that mean? The fact that it's non-physical means what?
It's part of the brain.
It is not the brain. It's formless.
It has no beginning and no end.
It has no beginning, no end. That's another feature. So it's non-physical, it has no beginning, no end. What does that mean?
Not in the body.
Well, right now it's in the body.
Okay.
It moves from life to life. So, and it also means it's always existed. It cannot cease. It doesn't, even though it's momentary, our mind, we just have a series of moments of mind, and they arise, they abide, and then they disintegrate very rapidly. It can, what is the cause of mind? A moment of mind? A previous moment of mind. So, but it's all in the same continuum. So, moment of my mind that arises, its cause is a previous moment of my mind, and back 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 and back, back and back. That also doesn't cease. The way I grasp at my mind is totally incorrect. This idea I have that somehow there is this me that owns this mind or this history of mine, or however I, decide to, make a story around it, all are just totally false. It's, this I is just a label to this series of moments that arise of mind and body. So we've said it's non-physical, it's without beginning, without end. It is the nature of clear light, or it's pure. Mm-hmm. Its function is to know, is to perceive. So those are the four, I think. Just kidding. What's how many types of awareness are there? Put on my good ears here. Any ideas?
Seven?
Conscious awareness. That's, I'm assuming, is what you mean by mental awareness. Mental awareness is one of them.
Sensory awareness,
And how many of those are there?
sight, hearing, touch,
Taste. There's one more.
Smell.
Smell. So there are 5. So there's 6 total. So that's also very different in the way we think of mind. Okay, so it's not that your nose is nose awareness, but your nose is the physical support for nose awareness, okay? The senses, how does it know its objects? Every mind requires contact to have an object of mind. So all minds have to meet their object. But how does sensory awareness know its mind? Know its object, sorry. Perception. What is perception versus what? I'm sorry? What? You have to be willing to be wrong. You just have to really be willing. And it's a good habit to get into because it's one of our obstacles.
concepts.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for saying it loudly. So it's so we have perceptual awareness and we have conceptual awareness. So what makes an awareness perceptual? What's its quality? Or how would you describe that? Hmm? Okay, so yes, it's one of them is things you see. So what makes that perceptual? Now this might be true. We did discuss it, but it's a direct experience. You're actually engaging the object itself. So a sound, your ear is, directly apprehending sound. Nose with smell. Body with tactile awareness. What at this stage? For ordinary beings, we generally are not aware of mental direct perceptions. So what does our mind, our mental awareness do?
Conceptualizes it?
Yes, we can see with our mental awareness, you know. How is it getting at its object? What is a concept? It's an idea about an object. You know, it's an idea about something that we label something, you know. So our mental awareness is not apprehending an object directly. It is using an intermediary to get at it. Anybody else amused by this effort of mine? Okay. You will let go. So, what they call that intermediary in Buddhism is like a meaning generality or mental image or a generic image or a sound generality. But what it's, you know, sort of like a snapshot. Only it doesn't have to be like a snapshot, because if it's not a visual form you're trying to have a concept about, you know. I think I played with this thing too much, and it has a short. So instead of actually, when we're having a thought about something, it's really the memory of the object itself, or you know, it's a memory of what we thought about, whatever concept, like love, you know, something that isn't tangible. So it's indirect. So it can be equally valid to a direct perception or equally invalid. And although it's equally valid, it is not as powerful as a direct perception in terms of, you know, like having conviction. So you'll hear a lot about a direct perception of reality or direct perception of emptiness. And that's what makes, you know, that's something that Buddhists aim for, is to have this clear, undistorted, direct perception of how things exist. And that's a mental direct perception. It takes a lot of practice and study and reflection and meditation and developing single pointedness and all sorts of things. But that's, you know, and in order to get a mental direct perception of emptiness, first you have to have a completely correct conception of it. So it's not that concepts are useless. They are not useless. We need them in order to penetrate the meaning of reality.
Is emptiness a concept or reality?
Yes, it's an absence of something. So all it can be is a concept from the point of view of, you know, that it's our understanding of emptiness we have to try to imagine, if emptiness existed, what would it be, in order to be able to understand that it's not there. So if you want to know, like, is Joan in the room, you would have to know who Joan is. So the same thing with this. So in order to really understand the fact that nothing exists inherently, you need to know what something existing inherently would mean in order to recognize that nothing exists that way. Don't worry, that's an advanced topic. That's subject 12 or something. Yes.
So your previous thought is your concept of that object?
So what they say is, even with our sense perceptions, you know, the first moment we apprehend something, we're apprehending it directly. But as soon as we start, you know, the next moment, you know, as soon as we label it cup, we've gone to conception and we're using our memory of the object to make these thoughts about these stories. Because the only thing the direct perception is apprehending is shape and color. That's what your eye awareness is aware of.
So what is the goal then, to be understanding conception or perception for the Buddhist? What is the goal?
The goal is to be able to recognize unmistaken and mistaken states of mind, learning how to tell the difference. So just like we learn that our reflection in a mirror, there isn't another person in the mirror, it is just a reflection of a person in the mirror. Just like we learn that even though, the mirror has a function of reflecting your image, there's never been a person in the mirror. So, and some animals can't figure that out, and others can. We're one of them, so we can figure it out. So it's that kind of thing of really understanding that even though things appear in a mistaken way as if they exist inherently, it doesn't mean they don't have any function. It doesn't mean that just because things, the way I apprehend a book and the way the book exists are not compatible, actually. It doesn't mean the book doesn't exist and that the book doesn't serve a. I hate negatives. And, the Tibetan texts are full of double negatives, and you start thinking that way, and I always get it messed up. So let's start positive. The book exists, even though it does not exist inherently. It functions, even though it doesn't exist inherently. That's where we're stopping with that. So in our sensory perceptions, external objects are the objects we're apprehending. As soon as we judge objects, it's our thoughts about those objects. And we go wrong. Like, immediately. So this we've also talked about. Yes, please.
There is something, at least neuroscience recognizes, as they call it interoception, which is the sensation of the various organs in the body, that sort of thing.
That's still an external object
I know,
to the mind.
What sense of that?
Maybe it's tactile.
Consider it tactile.
I don't know. We'd have to check. I think it's tactile. I mean, I think when I think about what tactile is, that kinetic, we're aware of movement, we're aware, all that thing, that would be the same thing for internal organs. Yes.
If form is emptiness and emptiness is form, and you said an idea is not form.
Right. Form is, ideas are not physical.
Okay.
And emptiness is form. This is from the Heart Sutra. So if you've never heard of the Heart Sutra, don't worry about it. That's course like 12, 13, whatever. But we have to remember that the statement, emptiness is form and form is not other than emptiness, is just talking about inherent existence. So, and lack of inherent existence. So it's sort of like the idea is the nature of this book is that it's empty of inherent existence. Yeah. It's also a dependent arising. That's both of those things. It's empty of inherent existence, and it's a dependent arising. So form is dependent arising because it is empty. Things could not arise if they were not empty of inherent existence. So this is getting at sort of the meaning of if something inherently exists, what would that mean? It means it would not change. It could not be momentary. It could not, we wouldn't even have to name it book because its nature would scream book to us. It would be book from its own side. But it's not. We had to give it a name.
So what exists inherently?
Nothing.
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 It is a non-existent,
The universe?
nothing. Think the Big Bang. Is there anything unchanging about this universe? Because that's what it would have to be if it inherently existed. It's always changing. It's a dependent arising. And if you read Stephen Hawking's book on, I've forgotten the title, but no intelligent creator is necessary for a world, a universe that's as complex as that, because you can explain every dependent arising. And just go back and back and back and back and back and back and back. There's no need to have someone designing what happened. Cause and effect explains it.
Antimatter.
Maybe that's consciousness.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking. The matter and antimatter.
Maybe. So that's one of the things that Buddhism brings to the discussion is the non-physical impact of consciousness. And so understanding the mind helps us understand karma.
What about people that say that you can bring things into fruition by visualization, imagination?
Well, it's not exactly like that.
No.
But it is in the sense of, okay, I don't want to not do the review of this subject because, we're on the last night and some people might panic. Don't know. Those who are taking a test next Thursday. I'm kind of just teasing them. But it is this sense that everything is mind. You will see that frequently in Buddhist texts. And that is getting at this cause and effect that is related to mental consciousness. So in one of the weeks, we discussed feeling. So what is feeling?
It's our experience of something that's either good, neutral, or bad.
Okay, it's even a little, yes, I mean, basically. So it's like pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral.
Is it dependent arising?
Yes, and what is it dependent upon?
Thoughts?
Our karma.
Karma. Okay.
It is the actual ripening of our past actions. So when we say that if you do positive actions, you have positive results, and one of the aspects of positive results is pleasantness, that's what we're talking about. So our response to objects, because feeling is a state of mind, a mental factor that arises in every moment of mind. It is the karmic ripening of our past actions. So whether we experience any moment as pleasant or as unpleasant, or as we don't even really notice the moment, it's all due to our past actions. In this way, we create our world.
So when we say past actions, is that recent past actions as well as remote, or
Some have to do with, you'll understand this better when we get to karma, because there are 4 different types of karmic results. And so some of them are environmental, which means like the kind of place we live in, like we're here in this country versus being in a country that's been, a war zone for the past 100 years or something. And so that's a different environmental result. Then like our health, all sorts of things. I mean, and so there are lots of different facets. But the experience of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral is one of those ripenings of our past actions. So everything pleasant that we experience, from taste of food that we like, to sunsets, to music, to, I don't know, cool breezes on a hot day, to warm breezes on a cold day, everything that we experience as pleasant is the ripening of positive actions in the past. Seeing beautiful things, flowers and butterflies and interesting things. You know, whatever captures our interest and we find pleasant. Same is true of everything that we find unpleasant. It also is true of the things that we are neutral about. So this is like, have you ever noticed that like you walk into a room or something and then afterwards, you know, and your friend who's with you and walked in the same room or had the same kind, you know, thing said, oh, did you see that gorgeous blah, 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 you know? And you go, really? No, I didn't see that at all. And, you know, that's a karmic seed right there, that you just didn't even see this wonderful thing, or that you did perceive, you may have even seen it, but to you, it didn't have anything. So it was as if it wasn't even there. So these are different karmic seeds right now. So if you have the habit of noticing what's wrong with the picture, you are creating that tendency to only be drawn to what's wrong with the picture. And this is one of the really easy ways that we can change our experiences, is noticing that and trying to change it. You know, giving yourself an exercise in, I'm going to try to notice as many positive things today as I can. If you're having trouble with a person, it's really helpful to try to collect all the positive things you can about that person. Keep them in your pocket, or when they irritate you, so that you can pull them out and go, yeah, that's right, they're not just this. It's particularly helpful with family members. You know, people you have to see all the time, or coworkers, that you know, you're going to be a lot better off if you have harmony with them, than notice all the things that you don't like about them. But it's also this reminder that because we get really hooked by things that are happening, right? You know? And it's just karma right there. If we can put a space between what's happening and how we respond to it, if we can recognize that I don't have to respond to this in any particular way. I can choose how to respond to this. I can make this a big deal and get all upset about it. I can make this a personal judgment of my character. I can make this blah, 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 whatever. Or the other way. Oh, this is proof I'm as great as I thought I was, you know, and then we can kind of put ourselves up there on the pride-built platform, you know. So we need to start understanding, or at least exploring, the possibility of how powerful our minds are. Now, this does not mean that you can that wishing makes it so. Because karma ripens. So, but it does mean that you can have seemingly endless negative karmic seeds ripen, and this not destroy your mind, your peace of mind.
So the feeling is ripening the karmic seed.
The pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral.
Correct. Our reaction to it, is not a ripening of the karmic seed.
No, it's a tendency. It's our habit energy, and that's what we can break. We can say, okay, not going that. Just because it's unpleasant doesn't mean I'm going to get upset about it. I'm going to just, go with the flow. No big deal. It'll end. It's impermanent. It will end. Now this takes effort, but it's about recognizing that even though it feels like we feel compelled to respond in a certain way, and those are just our very strong habit energies pushing us. That's the mental habit of always getting angry when something breaks. I mean, like, you can just read me like a book with inanimate objects, they really irritate me. Like,
You know, and I know that part of that is because I decided when I started this practice, well, at least I can get mad at inanimate objects and it won't do me any harm. And I was wrong. That's not true.
But I would say I'm impressed because if I can figure it out, I'd probably spend like 10 minutes. I'm gonna figure this out. But you let go of it and you move on. So
Well,
I think you did a great job.
This is one of those, thank you for noticing my progress. So, I mean, but this is the thing, is that, I mean, that's it. And this is a good point. It's about priorities. You start to go, okay, yeah, I could go in my usual habitual way, or I can make my peace of mind a priority and move on. Because we really sometimes embrace anger, frustration as if we want to have the right to feel that way. Like it's fun or something. You know? We focus on our health problems. I mean, you know, I look at my parents sometimes. They're both dead, so I really don't look at them sometimes. But they really didn't complain, ever. You know? They just, you know, you discover. Like my mother was in a sanitarium for 2 years with TB when she was like 11, 12 and 13. I never knew that about her. She was dead before I knew that little piece of information. Never talked about it. Can you imagine that happening in my generation and nobody hearing about it? Ha ha ha. Y'all would have already heard it about 300 times. So, I mean, this is the thing. So, and I realized that they suffered less than I do from physical things because they didn't focus on it. Now, you can't always tell from the outside whether someone is, you know, just tolerating the discomfort or if they're actually doing nothing but thinking about it. But, you know, but sometimes, you know, you can, you know, you talk to them about it and you're like, they'll just kind of go, oh yeah, but, you know, it's always something. They obviously are not getting down by it. So it's really interesting. So we need to see, you know, this is what, you know, so we observe, why am I running on the, you know, running my mouth about this? Is it helpful? Is it skillful? Or is it just keeping me focused on something that's unpleasant? You know, and then trying to remember, you know, the advice of so many different traditions with different words, you know, basically, you know, if you can't do anything about it, why worry about it? And if you can do something about it, do, and quit worrying about it. So, you know, as opposed to being attached to worrying, thinking, oh, it's my best friend. Anger is my best friend. You know, woe is me is my best friend, whatever your version of, you know, focusing on the suffering. And if we recognize that we're capable of changing our mental habits, our responses to things, you know, we'll recognize how much power we've got. You know, we might not be able to change anything about our external conditions, but we will suffer less just because of the way we think and how we respond. And we know people who are like this. We see people who seem to just weather every storm, you know.
So is the retraining, are we retraining those feelings?
This is what we've done. We're trained right now. We have trained ourselves to respond in certain ways over eons. So it's a very big habit. And so to overcome it, we have to retrain ourselves. And so how do we do that? We talked about this last week. So how do we change our mind? First, we have to be aware of it. Then what do we have to do? We have to want to change it. You can't be like I am about sugar. You know, I want sugar not to be bad for you. And I keep wanting to insist. For years, they didn't have any studies that proved that sugar was bad for you except for your teeth, you know. So,
but now they actually have, why did they ever study it? Darn it. But, so I still grasp after wanting to change the way things are. I don't want that to be true. And so I suffer.
It could change though.
I doubt it.
Well,
Because I can just look at my own body and tell that sugar's not good for me. I mean, I don't really need science. I just, but now with science, I sort of can't keep lying to myself. But so we have to recognize this way of thinking, and we can choose. You see, that's the nice thing. It's not like somebody else, well, maybe sometimes, if you have habits that are predominantly illegal, you may, be forced to change them. But in general, we can choose our priorities. And the older I get, I know I'm getting closer to the point where I'm going to have to accept that sugar is bad for me because I respond more strongly to it. And it changes how I feel and how I respond to the world. And it's not in the direction I want to go. But, we have to look. It's not like we'll just change everything all at once. But the good news is when you have success with changing one habit, it will generalize to other habits. You will get better at it. It will be easier to spot things that you do. You'll be looking at your mind going, wow, that's not helpful. Maybe I want to stop that, and it will just be easier to accomplish. And then you'll hit something else and go, whoa, I am nowhere close to wanting to change this. And you have to kind of go, okay, I'll set this one aside for the moment. We have to be gentle, appreciative of, that we aren't these one habit, and it doesn't say anything about our character other than we were, I'm a great student at certain things. I was a great student at impatience and anger, so I just need to apply the strength of being able to learn to something more skillful. So it's just, but we can choose what those things are that we want to focus on. But first we have to even look and then see, is it the case? I keep saying that, my mind is going to affect how I act, and whether I even notice good things happening to me or if I notice bad things happening to me, depending on where my mind is at the moment, is that true? You have to investigate. And you have to do it over time. Some things will probably pop out at you, really easy to notice. And other things, it'll take a while, it'll then hit you. And that's okay. That's the good news. Noticing is the only way you have the choice to change it. So it's always something to rejoice about. And every time you notice, oh, there's that habit. I know you very well. You're making progress. Doesn't matter when you actually get ahead of it. If you keep noticing, keep acknowledging that it's not skillful, that it's something that, you might consider dropping, you are in the direction going that way. We're not idiots. We want to be happy. The Buddha said we just don't know what we're doing. We really think that getting control over everything outside of us and getting exactly what we want or a close proximity is what's going to bring us happiness and peace of mind. And it's not true. It's really about looking within and seeing the way we mistake external objects as sources of happiness when in fact they're not. They're just sources of change. So getting better at observing what's going on in our mind all day long can help us see these patterns. What are the other always present mental factors? Feeling is one of them. Contact, we talked about that, but the mind and the object have to meet. Discernment, sometimes called discrimination, sometimes called recognition. So what is that?
You distinguish between objects by the characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, it's this ability that we have of being able to discern one object from another. This is this is that, that is that. It's so that, it's how we have an object. If we couldn't do that, it could just be this massive bunch of stuff. What's another one? There are 5. Contact, feeling, discrimination, intention. Every moment of mind has an intention. And that's that's what drives the mind to its object. It's what, turns our attention towards. The more conscious we are about intention, the better we are to help create causes and conditions for less suffering in the future. It's like, if we have the habit of always going towards the negative, our habit for intention is to go towards the negative. What's wrong with this picture?
Create suffering.
Yep. So intention's really important to get a hang on. But then attention, the last one, is what zeroes in. So your intention kind of brings your mind in the general direction, and then attention is what zeroes you in on something.
What you pay attention to grows.
Well, we don't recognize it as a choice. But it's just, I'm sure you've told, anybody who's a parent has probably told their children from, time to time, why do you only look at that? Why did you notice the, blah, blah, blah. That's the intention, attention getting trained to focus on something that is not skillful for them. And you're trying to help them recognize that that's what they're doing.
And it's actually something maybe I don't like.
Oh, well, gee, yes. No, we didn't try to control anything out here. No, of course. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it might not be valid, useful information for the child. So.
When you say attention zeroes in, do you mean that it's driven by intention?
Yeah, well, intention is what brings you to the general location of that object. Attention is what hooks you. It's what really grasps an object. So it's like you're something, you look at your daydreams. If you think a lot about to make this stuff up on the fly, like, what would I do if I won the lottery? So what does that say?
That you're not enough. It's not enough how it is right now.
What is not enough?
That if you don't win the lottery, you're unsatisfied.
Well, what does that mean? What is it that you're saying you need?
More
money.
More money.
Lots more money. I need so much money, I never have to worry about money again. Because, who wants to win the $1 million lottery? We want to win the $144 million lottery. And we want to be the single ticket owner of the million, whatever, So, you want to look at these habits. If you go there and you think, oh, look what I'm drawn to, it's this idea that money is going to make me happy. So then you have to go, is that true? And then you have to remind yourself. I love a wall of celebrities. It's so clear that fame doesn't make you happy. Wealth doesn't make you happy. Even good health is not a guarantee for happiness. All of these things help. It's not like you don't need some money. It's not like that. We need, our requisites for living. But how we feel about it is a whole different story. So part of our looking for what helps our mind is looking at what contentment is. And desire is not part of contentment. So if you have the habit of daydreaming about things that you don't have and you want to have, you want to look at whether or not that's helpful to your mind or not. Because even daydreaming, nothing is going to live up to a daydream. So you're setting yourself up for being disappointed with what is. This is why it can be treacherous to read books or watch movies or TV shows or whatever that have a lot of stuff that is not within your reach and just feeds, if you're the type of person that thinks money is what makes, things okay, it can just feed that. And it's a lie to begin with.
The same is true with intention. If I'm forming an action and my intention is to seek recognition that also causes.
Intention is karma. Yeah. So it's sort of like feeling is the ripening of a past action. Intention is the creation of the future experience.
So then sounds like there's a distinction between intention and motivation.
Yeah, it gets, motivation. The more observant we are of our minds, we start to notice that motivation is sort of like like the desire for something, and then intention is actually going for it. So that's why you want to correct your motivation before an activity. If you realize that that you're doing something solely for the purpose of looking good to somebody else, or and it's it's hard to come up with these examples on the fly. I'm sorry. I need to go take acting class. But intention is where now you're actually following that motivation. It's like you're now turning your mind towards that object.
So motivation could be thought, intent could be action.
They're both thoughts.
How do you explain it with the what?
Well, it is sort of. So the what and the why. So motivation is the why, and the what. It's like, okay, the Buddha in a previous life killed a ship captain because he had the ability of being able to read minds and knew that the ship captain was going to kill 200 people. And so to prevent the ship captain from incurring the negative karma of killing 200 people, he decided to kill him. So the intention to kill is the same. It doesn't matter, it's to kill. It doesn't change from, your intention to kill the mosquito that's biting you on the arm. The intention is to kill. But the his motivation was out of compassion for the ship captain. It wasn't even out of care about the 200 people, because they are just going to exhaust a negative karma by being killed. You'll have another life. Consciousness doesn't cease. See, this is what the big view is. This is why it takes a while. You really do have to kind of get all the pieces to the puzzle, because it's huge. It's a very different way of looking at things. So someone who's getting ready to kill 200 people is about to create the cause to spend, like 200 eons in hell realms. Someone who is who's about to be killed is getting ready to exhaust the seed of having killed someone else. It's the karmic ripening of a past negative action. So when someone's getting ready to do a terribly negative thing, the teachings basically say, That's who you need to be compassionate for.
And what about the person doing the killing of the?
That's what we're talking about.
So, that person isn't gonna reap any negative karmic seeds.
They say, okay, you hear lots of things. Basically, it's taught that he bounced into hell and back because of the strength of the motivation,
Because of
the
the
compassion.
motivation involved in why he did it. Okay.
Because they say that killing is a natural negativity, which means there's no action of killing that is free of a negative result. But that if your motivation's entirely positive, it won't result that way.
So would part of his karmic seed then have been for the Buddha to intercept? Or was that somehow
Yes.
he had good karma?
Yes, yes, absolutely. He created the cause for that being to be there to read his mind and stop him.
So both of those two things can coexist.
And all the time, look at our lives. We're not one thing. They're very messy. I'm a nun. How did that happen? I mean, it's like we've created, this is why judging others is meaningless. We have no clue what's ripening for them in this life. And to think that we didn't create the same causes, think that we haven't created the cause to be born in a war zone, that's just not looking at the big picture. This is why it matters how we act in this life with these good conditions. Really guard our mind, because we want another life like this to continue practicing and changing our minds and perfecting these things. Because odds are good, it won't happen that way.
So how do we make this discernment? I mean, me and my roaches, right? So this morning there's a roach upside down in the bathroom.
What discernment?
One leg a little twitching. So the question is, do I pick up the roach and put it out of its misery and put it in the toilet?
Oh my God.
Or do I leave it?
Wow.
Or do I leave it?
You don't know if it's suffering.
No, well, this is the thing. I perceive, so I'm projecting that like it's looking like it's suffering.
Yeah, but you don't know it's suffering. You don't know it's suffering. You have no clue what its next life will be.
Right. So
You would never shorten someone's life just because
Okay. So
on a guess.
That's what I'm curious about. So this concept of euthanasia, or whatever it might be.
Oh, yeah, it's not really a good thing in Buddhism. But you can't judge, we can't judge others. You just have to look, these are really heavy subjects. They're hard and they take a lot of practice. But this idea, on very simple terms, if karma and rebirth and all those things are correct, and we can't read minds, we have no clue if something's suffering mentally. That's what's important. We can see if they're physically suffering. But if their mind's not disturbed, they are just exhausting the lifespan that's ripened. If we hurry it up, we don't know what their next life's going to be.
Hurry it up by killing?
Mhm.
Oh.
Now, that's not the same as withholding treatment. Withholding treatment is just not, creating the conditions for them to receive a certain treatment. But you're not, doing something to end their life. You're letting the karmic, whatever, happen. But those are really complicated. You don't start there. You want to really look at things and think about them. And because it's very layered.
They're all very practical questions that we confront all the time.
Well, I can tell you, don't kill cockroaches because they're suffering. That's not a good plan. Let that poor little cockroach finish that karmic of being a cockroach, and hopefully if you say mantras to it, it may cause a positive seed to ripen at the time of death and have a human rebirth. Wouldn't that be nice? That's why what the recommended thing is to do if you see an insect, is a retreat where all clean up little ants and worms and everything, make sure no one steps on them. you know. But also, if you take them around a stupa or a Buddha, or if you have an altar, and you know, you may ripen them for. I mean, that might be the cause for them to have a good rebirth. I know it's all outrageous, but it explains things.
I can't kill a roach. I could never kill a roach. Even before, I mean, just.
Oh, I rejoice in that habit energy.
But yeah, but that's just like a natural thing. I just can't.
No, it's not a natural thing according to the teachings.
Yeah. but
It's habit.
for me. Yeah.
It's
no,
habit
It's
for
habit for me.
It's your habit.
Yeah, I can't do that.
No, that's
Even
great.
though it's not being Buddhist, I'm just saying in general.
We just say that you practiced in past life. I'm just giving the Buddhist perspective here. You know, it's not, you can take it or leave it, you know, but it's just, that's the Buddhist perspective. But we, you know, we don't come as blank slates. We have habits, you know. You see it in children, you know, you see it in babies. And we're just bringing our mental habits with us. They like to tell the story of the kid who was having his what is it, lice removed out of, you know, his hair because at school, you know, the school said you can't, you know, and he's going, don't kill them, Mommy. You're taking them from their home.
Aw.
That's previous practice. It's really respect for life. You know, so, and this isn't to judge us harshly, those of us who go, get that out of myself. You know, it's just about understanding that our mind is very spacious and is completely capable of caring for all living beings, no matter how small, how gross, how repulsive they seem to us. It is just our mind is capable of not making a differentiation based on appearance. So, you know, this is what we can do. We can grow our minds. Right now, it's very bound by our habits, and the more habits we cultivate that are more open, compassionate, respectful. Right now, they're kind of closed by self-cherishing. You know, it's like, ooh, I can't live with cockroaches in the house. You know, so we, you know, stamp them all out. You know, whatever. So I mean, you know, and that comes from our side. That comes entirely from our side. We don't think cockroaches are worth spending the energy and effort to try to get them out of the house without killing them. We think, who cares? Well, they care. You know, so that's a, you know, it's just a different way of thinking.
So what if you still want to kill the cockroach and the snake that was in my patio 2 weeks ago?
Mhm.
You know, I'm not going to change. I'm not planning to change.
Well, that's your choice.
Yeah, that's your choice. Yeah, because the snake came in my
But
patio.
it doesn't mean there isn't a karmic result of that.
Okay.
I mean that, you know, I mean that's just the thing. Like I said, you know, we go in stages. You know, it's like Thich Nhat Hanh. You know, he was sitting in a hammock, you know, in the afternoon, and there was some poisonous snake resting underneath him. And he just thought it was delightful to share his spot of shade, you know, whereas I'd be freaking out. You know? So it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so someone like Thich Nhat Hanh, if I could read his mind, I would imagine is thinking, well, if I created the cause to be bit by this snake and die from the snake, that's, you know, that's all right. I'm not really concerned about my next life. I know, you know, I've got pretty good control over my mind. It'll probably be a good one. So, I'm certainly not going to kill the snake in order to prevent that. Now, I cannot imagine that mind. I just know it's possible. You know, but I know my self-cherishing, terribly fearful mind, you know, is not there yet. Now, because I have a terribly fearful mind, I also wouldn't kill the snake. I'd just run screaming into, you know.
Yeah, and call somebody else to come kill it.
I didn't go outside on my deck. I didn't go outside on my deck for 2 years because I saw a snake on it.
Don't you think Thich Nhat Hanh's energy kept the snake from
He
doing
probably
harm?
did not create the cause to be bit by a snake.
Right. Did you see the Dr. Emoto on the studies on water? If you,
Yes, that hasn't held up somewhat.
yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting concept because loving energy as opposed to negative energy.
And we know it has power. We just are convinced that negative energy has more power than good energy, positive energy. And that's not reason why. We should question that belief because it's not true. There's some people we're always happy to see. There's something about them for us that we find uplifting. And it's sort of like, so that, and the Buddha just said we can work on our minds so that we have that effect on people. We have to remember, and this is why when you're noticing how our mind works, it's so important to not just look at the negative stuff. When we look at what we may have done in the past that's ripening now, we need to remember everybody's created these. It doesn't make us bad. That's the whole thing about the absence of inherent existence. We are not the nature of anything. That every moment our mental capacity can choose how we respond. We just need to train ourselves to be able to see that opportunity, to see that space we have to do something differently. And that takes a lot of practice.
So you call that speeding up, but I think of it as slowing down. I have to slow myself down.
Yeah. Did I say the word speed up?
Well, you said you'd get ahead of it.
Yeah. In other words, your choice comes before your habit energy.
Yes.
Yes.
But it usually doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it takes habit. It takes you have to practice.
So that the action
Yes.
occurs more quickly.
Because you practice it so well, it is just automatic. We think of that as proof that we are a certain way. And the Buddha said, no, it's a strong habit.
So that's why I like meditation though, is because I slow myself down
Right.
to observe those things without having.
And that's why the second course is how to meditate. Because it is a tool to learn how to do that. Because right now it just seems like, lickety split, 3 billion mental actions have happened and you weren't even paying attention, and so, So we need to learn how to be more observant of that mind. And fortunately, we're using something just as speedy because we're using mind. It isn't about having to create even a separate mind. That's not it. It's just bringing awareness of that mind in every moment.
Speaking of the Dalai Lama's article that you were referring to, that's one of the points that we made, that is that you have to use the mind to investigate.
That's all we've got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a really good review of the whole thing. It really does start with just recognition, just noticing. Gee, I seem to always want blah, blah, blah. How's that working for me? Oh, that's so good. So, and then investigating how I might look at it differently. And what would it look like if I responded differently? So all of those things we can do, when we're sitting quietly and reflecting about things, we can really investigate other possibilities. And this is why it's so important to try to stay open so that you don't keep going back to, but, you just look, because there is more than one way to get at something, so it's like when you're really attached to something going a certain way, you can't see the other ways it might go. And me, it's scared of me. So, but you know how, that you don't even see, it's like if two people have an idea about how something should unfold and they disagree, they can't see the possibility of a third way. It's like if you're just holding so tight to the way it's been done, always been done, that you think it should be done, that's going to become an obstacle to recognizing that there's maybe another way. So just because we responded a certain way mentally, like, oh, I have to, everybody should be angry at this. This is a condition for anger. We can understand there are other options. And that anger actually is an obstacle to those other options. We won't be able to see them. Anger is distorting how we even see whatever happened. It's a distortion of things. And so we want to investigate that too. We can't do that in the moment of anger. In the moment of anger, we're distorted. So you have to look back to be able to reflect on, Buddha says, the mind of anger is an exaggeration of negative qualities. How is that true? Can I see the way I was exaggerating? What does it mean by exaggerating the negative qualities? It's this recognition that in that moment of anger, that's all we're seeing. We don't see their good qualities. We're just seeing what it is that we're angry about. And because we're angry about it, it's a big deal. It's a source of harm to us in some way.
Is it ever good? Is it ever okay to be angry?
It depends on what you mean by is it okay to be angry. There's no judgment.
Right. But I like if somebody
It has a consequence.
Yeah. But I mean, like if the intention of somebody did something wrong to somebody else and you're angry.
What does the anger do?
What's your reaction?
What does it do?
Might set up a boundary or defense from them doing it again. I mean, sometimes you have to stand up to people.
You may have to stand up to people. What does anger have to do with it?
And maybe the anger is motivating.
It might be motivating.
Anger blocks you from rationality.
Totally.
Yeah.
You can't think.
Yeah.
This is why it's dangerous.
My mother used to say she was clearer when she was angry, and I've heard other people say that.
Yeah, but are they correct? The Buddha said no, they're not
I think
correct.
they are, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of things. Most of them aren't true. Just because we think it doesn't make it true. We really have to investigate. Feelings are not true. Just because it's a feeling, you don't even look at, in Buddhism, feelings just pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Anger is a state of mind. Okay? Its function is to separate you from happiness. That's all it does. It goes, ooh, don't like, and I'm going to suffer. That's all it does.
Changes your perspective. It changes your mood.
Just that moment of anger. Now, if you use that moment of anger in the next moment to, an intervention is needed, But that takes a lot of wisdom. Mostly, you can actually see something happen is a terrible thing, that's really harmful, and not get mad about it and still intervene. Thank God for psychologists. We didn't have, people couldn't do that. There'd be no treatment for people who harm others because we'd all be too busy hating them.
But isn't it easier to be angry and to get rid of that and to put it out?
Oh, is that what you do?
Than to become, it takes more work to do what we're trying to do here. than to just be angry.
Do you
only-
just get over it? Is there no life to
I
anger?
don't know. I would hope people would not, but sometimes I wonder about that.
Well, I find that, if I look at my mind, I tend to, once I get angry, that just breeds another moment of anger and another moment of anger. And in fact, I rehearse it. And then I call my friends up and go, hey, you wouldn't believe what happened today. This jerk, da 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 da. So I rehearse my anger a little more, a little more, and I spread it.
I know that story.
That
story.
Yeah. Well, and I'm making most of it up. I don't think I'm making any of it up. But that takes a lot of energy. People tend to let anger fuel many moments of anger. If they have a habit of anger, I have the habit of anger. So this is, some people don't have the habit of anger. Yay, I rejoice. I really prefer spending time with you. I haven't created the cause to do much of that. But this is, so this is the thing. We need to recognize that being able to stand up to injustice or to harmful actions does not require anger. It requires wisdom. You have to be able to see, oh, that's harmful. You have to be able to see, will my actions make it better or worse? There's a lot of things you have to take into account. Am I going to inflame things? So you need a working mind. An angry mind is distorted. It's not helpful. Well, it's just, it's an exaggeration of harm.
So my question then is, anger is not a feeling, it does not arise as a...
It's a state of mind.
Okay, and it arises as a state.
It is a state of mind. That's all it is. It's a state of mind. It has feeling, discrimination, intention, attention, and contact with it, because those are always present. So it's so if you have the habit of looking at things, and reacting to them, bad things are something one should get angry at. Good things are something one should just feel entitled to. You have to really examine what part, there's, yes, maybe anger or at least outrage or something might get you started at thinking, ooh, we've got to have a solution to this. But the anger itself is not necessary for the solution. In fact, it is an obstacle to finding a solution, as it's distorted.
Peaceful activism.
Right. Not peacekeeping armies, which is an oxymoron. Did you have your hand up?
Oh, I was just, it's funny how psychologists in the past, they used to tell people to punch a pillow or get their anger out. And yet this way we're just sitting with it and
Well, you're digesting it.
digesting.
So like in the moment,
And I
okay,
still have people telling me you have to express your anger.
well, I think they're wrong.
Yeah.
I think the Buddha would say they're wrong. Now, it is true that suppression isn't helpful. That's just ignoring your anger, and it will bite you later. We need to work through it. We need to be able to recognize that anger is just causing us harm. So we need to be able, because it's when we chill out that we can see, evaluate things, whether we overreacted, whether or not this is something that needs to be remedied, in the relationship, all sorts of things. But anger itself just causes us pain.
And heart disease and
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah. It just leads to suffering.
I just remember that in the Art of Living, Don Arnold talks about he gets angry.
Yeah.
It's a human thing.
It's not, okay, I just want to say it arises out of ignorance. We can end it. It doesn't have to arise. Thinking that it's just natural, is not recognizing it's coming from our distorted way of perceiving how things exist. Because, and I'm not saying his only did say that, which is just saying, I'm not a Buddha yet. So it's this recognition that a lot of our states of mind are not useful. They're not accurate. They mislead us. They're based on a faulty notion. And we want to uncover those things, because the reason we can change our minds, and become more and more positive is because negative states of mind are inaccurate. We can make them more accurate by developing our wisdom.
Last week you said to leave the room and go think about it. Was that something you did say? Was that a good idea to do that?
I mean, sometimes that's what your only choice is.
It's like, you're making me angry right now. I'm just going to leave the room.
Yeah, everybody has to find their own way. And you have to reflect. I mean, I think it's important to reflect, because, I had the habit of anger. So that means I didn't even really have to think about reasons. It was just the way I responded. And it was not helpful, So I didn't have to spend a whole lot of, energy in the, oh, but why did I, well, because everything makes me angry. If I'm not getting what I want, I get angry. So it was really simple, But then, of course, after you work on it, the things that are left, the buttons that are still hard to, not manifest, not have arise, those I have to spend a little more time with, because clearly, it's not just my, but it's self-cherishing still there. It's just that it's operating on a very subtle level that I don't want to see yet. But anyway. Now, we may have different definitions of anger in our English dictionary, but in Buddhism, it's this exaggeration of harm, of the negative qualities of whatever it is, of the object, so whether it's a person, a situation. I used to be really into fairness. Not fair. Like the world is fair, Karma makes the world fair because it explains things, but it doesn't mean it's nice. And it doesn't mean it's somebody's fault. This is the thing. Our habit energy, it's cause and effect. And we just need to change our causes, and our effects will change. So the more we can get control of our habits and choose which ones we want to cultivate and which ones we want to abandon, the more peace of mind and contentment we'll have, which makes everything easier to handle. That's its payoff. So, but it's very, these are big assertions, and they're very contrary to the way we're raised. So for Tibetans who grow up with the idea of karma, who grow up with this idea of past and future lives, there's certain hurdles they don't have to overcome to try to look at things like, what do you mean I created the cause for this? What do you mean? They don't blame themselves. It's because we go immediately to blame, as opposed to just, cause and effect. It's like when we yell at the plants for not growing. I've done everything right. I've poured water. I've given you light. I've given you nutrition, and you still didn't grow. It's just all the conditions weren't there. Oh, well. So, we've done everything. If we have been around since beginningless time, that's a long, long time. So we have done every possible action that doesn't lead us to Pluto because we're not there. So, judging each other on whether, you must have been really bad. Look at all the things, trust me, that mind's not going to get you where you want to go. So And it's just not recognizing that we've all got these seeds. What we want to do is not let those negative ones ripen in the future. And the way you do that is to clean up your action in your mind. Because then you won't create you just won't have the conditions to write. But that's part 4 or something. How to meditate next. Karma comes up soon. Maybe January. November, December is karma. So, until we have the mind that's so spacious that it has no ignorance at all, we will not be able to see all the karmic threads of how, why these roads are red, Buddhas know why. The rest of us don't. So, we can't, because our minds are restricted by our obscurations, by our habits of mind and our ignorance. We have a limited view, but the more we, not shortchange ourselves by what we think our capacity is, the more spacious our minds. And of course, remember, never forget that mind and heart are the same word. We talk about the mind, we're not talking about anything different than the heart. What we call heartfelt emotions are just states of mind in Buddhism. The same thing. Compassion is valued, love is valued, kindness is valued, patience is valued, cheerfulness. All of these are good things. So,
is there any relationship you hear about laws of attraction and Buddhism?
Well, I don't know. I haven't really read anything about the laws of attraction, but what Buddhism says about attraction is that we've created the we've created a habit of chasing those things that we find pleasant, that that for whatever reason, that's just a karma ripening. But it's and so we form a. So say that you have a pleasant result about looking at something, like sunsets, So you'll be attracted to sunsets, you'll notice sunsets, all that kind of stuff. If you get to an attachment of sunsets, you cross this line, and then you become unhappy if you miss it. So you want to be skillful. This is this idea of instead of this idea that if you're attracted to something, you're increasing the odds. If you think about, I can have it, blah, 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 increasing the odds of getting it. I don't know, maybe that's true. But what you're doing is fueling this incorrect idea that getting what you want is how you are happy. And that's not true. So you will keep, this is what we already do. We just chase everything that we think will bring us some small or great bit of happiness. We are addicted to it. And we're wrong. We end up dissatisfied again and again and again because we are holding the wrong object as a source of happiness. So it's more that we're seeking equanimity, about being able to respond to whatever is going on with just, okay, this is what it is. Well, I can go with that. Just, to making it an opportunity and not resisting what is, and then not exaggerating We think things are unchanging. If we like it, we're always going to like it. And it will always please us. And this is not true. We set ourselves up this way. And then when something that we're accustomed to having pleasing us doesn't please us, we get mad. Yeah.
Sort of makes me think of a question that I had last week. But I feel like as I start to try to practice letting go of attachment, I lose excitement.
Well, you may be addicted to it.
Like, is that normal? It was my question last week was about like this sort of indifference. Like I
Yeah, but it's not indifference.
Steadiness of.
Yeah, but I think that may be false. When we just fake it, like I'm just not going to, care whether this arises or that arises. That's not equanimity. Equanimity isn't an indifference. It's just a how do I put it? We don't decide whether we don't say whatever. My happiness depends on what happens. You handle whatever happens, but you don't connect the two.
So you can still feel some sort of excitement and joy over something happening, but you don't
You can
hold
enjoy
on to
things, but you don't hold on to it when it stops, when the causes and conditions are no longer there, and so it is not happening, then you don't chase after it. You don't go, oh, but wait, I'm not done. I need more. You just, okay, next. So there's a difference. It's not about just kind of, it's not even the feeling is a karmic ripening. So you're the pleasant, unpleasant is going to happen, because it's the results of past actions. But our response to unpleasant is we have to push it away. That's not equanimity. It's like I had one monk. I was at a retreat, and the food, he didn't like the food, and so during meals he would go, my, this food is really terrible, but he didn't let it disturb him. It was more just, this is food I don't like. Doesn't matter. It's still food. It will still sustain me. I'm not angry. It's just an observation. Yeah.
I've heard, do you attract what you fear?
Do you attract what you fear? You create the cause.
Create the cause. To fear or
So that's a habit of response.
Okay. So.
But if you've created the cause, like say in a previous life, or my early life, you were very threatening to others. You're creating the cause to be surrounded by things that frighten you. It's not that you're attracted, it's a result of a past action where you caused others to be fearful of you. And it's ripening now, in that you're now fearful. Now you know what it feels like to be surrounded by things that frighten you.
Like if you're afraid of a lot of responsibility, or getting a new job that's, you might have to talk to people and do things that you don't like. And the fear, will that create that?
That's probably just fear of reputation. That's
Uh-huh.
But I mean, still, that's that attachment that it's so important to look good that you can't take any risk. Now that can be the result. The fact that everything seems to have that, that's a strong habit. You're so attached to your reputation. That's like what I ask a question, everybody goes, that's attachment to reputation. You don't want to be wrong. Because we associate being wrong with stupid, or I don't know, whatever you associate it with. Not, well, I'm trying. to understand, and I may not get it right. And the only way I'm going to get it right is to keep trying. You know, we're very attached to our reputation.
I can answer a question in grade school, so like 7th grade. But
I get it.
yeah. So kind of changing gears here, could you elaborate on the 5 ascertaining states of mind and how they relate to discernment?
Okay, so object ascertaining, there are what? How many of those?
5.
Okay, like,
Aspiration,
yeah.
appreciation, wisdom, concentration, and mindfulness.
Yeah, so these are the mental factors, the states of mind that we need in order to really understand an object. So why would we need mindfulness? What is mindfulness? It's not forgetting the object. So if you don't have mindfulness, good luck. If you can't remember the object, you're not going to know the object. Okay? So, and we do this to ourselves all the time. We're trying to watch our mind, and we immediately start thinking we know what other people are thinking, and then we judge them, and we're way off on something else entirely.
It's kind of being present.
Well, no, it's remembering the object, period. It's like, so being present is part of that, but it's also being present. It's like you can be sitting here and saying, I'm going to focus on my breath. Yeah. Mindfulness is what helps you go, okay, I've forgotten the object. I really don't like the object. It's kind of boring. Okay, so that's mindfulness. Aspiration is this, I want to know the object. You know, it helps you, you know, it gives you incentive. It's a wish to know it. We need that. Appreciation is the belief that it has value, which is why you want it and why you won't forget the object. So these all work together to hold our attention. Unfortunately, we can be totally mistaken about the quality of the object. What are the other two? Concentration. That means we not only do we remember the object, we're able to hold our attention on it for more than a second or two. You can't understand something very deeply if you can't really look at it for, to have it hold your attention, remember studying the test. But, and then the last one is wisdom. So this means you're actually, for example, most of it, in order. It's the knowing whether something is worth adopting or worth abandoning. That's one of the big wisdoms they talk about, because all of the discussion about states of mind is about how to get out of samsara, how to reduce your suffering, how to increase your happiness. There are many other states of mind, but what they're focused on is what helps us, what is skillful, and what are particularly unskillful, like anger, attachment, pride, greed, jealousy. Is that making sense?
No, that was very helpful. Because I'm wondering why are these the 5 states of mind identified as objects?
Yeah.
And on that same note, the variable states of mind.
Sleep, regret.
Yeah. Why are those 4?
Okay, so like regret.
Constructive or.
Yeah. Well, like regret. Regret's virtuous if you regret something non-virtuous. Regret's not virtuous if you regret doing something virtuous. Does that make sense? So if you regret hitting Susie at recess, that's considered a positive state of mind to have. If you regret sharing your lunch with so-and-so, that's not considered a good mind to have. Now, it's obviously much deeper than that. They're going to, it's all circumstantial. There's no right answer here. This is why you have to develop your wisdom. It's going to depend. Oh, what's the other one?
There was sleep.
Sleep it depends on how you go to sleep. Like if you just watch Game of Thrones and you go to sleep with that mind, either craving or hating or Yahoo, my one, I don't know, whatever, that's probably going to lead to non-virtuous sleep, which means your state of mind while you're sleeping isn't wholesome. So they encourage us to, set a positive state of mind before we fall asleep. So falling asleep while watching a violent, sexy movie, probably not a good thing to do. Better to be rejoicing over your positive attributes of the day.
You mentioned that this weekend I had family over and they were talking about how they like being in that state of sleep where they're on the couch and maybe they're with people, but they're not completely there. So,
And they're zoning out because it's restful. Yeah. See, it's much better though if you get to know your mind and are able to choose. Then you don't have to just zone out. And you can actually use your mind the way you want it to be. Which means you don't worry about what some people are saying. This is nothing. We get so hooked by everything that's happening around us that we'd rather just, sleep through it. Put those iPods on, whatever, we don't need those anymore. Plug in the phone, whatever music or whatever, somebody else's life, that's why we like TV. It's, we don't have to worry about our lives. We can worry about somebody else's.
And those conflicts, so we're watching someone else's conflict.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not ours.
We like stories, but, yeah. So what's the other variable one?
Just looking at it too is general examination and precise analysis.
I'll have to think about that. Why it's variable. And maybe it's just what like if you're precisely figuring out how to kill someone, and maybe the object, or what you're trying to do. I have a suspicion that's what it is, but.
This general examination is kind of a higher level of precise analysis.
Well, it's a lower level of analysis. It's a more general. But I'm not sure.
I think that's just very interested in why those four specifically were identified as variable.
Because they are. Because you really can literally, anger is never virtuous. There are 11 virtuous mental factors, but they're, so you really have to know what the definitions are, because we might use different definitions in our English dictionary, our non-Buddhist English dictionary.
So with that right there, 'cause my question was going to be states of mind versus feeling. So that might actually be the definition, whether it's variable or not. So if I have a thought, right, and I feel it feels like anger.
You have an angry thought.
I have an angry thought.
You don't feel.
Right, you don't, okay.
You have an angry thought.
But what might help me distinguish between feeling and thought is whether it's variable.
No, I don't think so. You just have to let go of this. I mean, you can keep the word feeling, but you just need to recognize that feeling is a thought. It's a conception about something. The way you're using it. It's, and pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral are both mental and physical. We have both.
Right, well, I guess what I'm getting to with this, or my confusion is with respect to it being a karmic. Right.
It's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Anger is not a feeling. It's a state of mind. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral are the karmic ripenings.
Period. I see. So we don't then attach a feeling to those definitions.
To those states of mind. They're different. They're different states of mind. Feeling is a state of mind that is experiencing pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Anger is a state of mind that's exaggerating the negative qualities of the object. Okay?
Can you say that nuance again?
Oh, let's try. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Can we just do the recording? Feeling is the experience of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or indifference. Okay? It's a state of mind that accompanies every mind.
moment of mind. Anger is a state of mind that exaggerates the negative qualities of its object. Generally, I would imagine feeling in that same retinue of an anger thought would be unpleasant. That's my guess.
So love is not a feeling either.
Feeling is pleasant,
That's what I'm trying to-
unpleasant, neutral.
I think
That's
people
it.
get confused because it's not a definition of feelings that we need.
That's what I keep saying. Feeling is a state of mind that experiences pleasant, unpleasant, neutral.
That's the Buddhist definition of feeling.
Feeling.
Right, so it's not the same as.
It's not the English definition of feeling.
That's what confuses people.
It's probably not good to mix them up with good, bad, or neutral. Which is what I did earlier, because I think there could be some pleasure involved when you're angry. And I'm not saying endorphin is good, but you were talking about how it almost feels good to justify it. Say, oh, they slighted me.
That's a different state of mind.
Sort of self-cherishing though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, called
At
rationalizing.
this point, yeah, at this point, you're at a different state of mind. So anger would probably be that moment that you were in that state of mind.
You may have several moments of anger. Every moment of mine has the 5 always present mental factors, which include feeling. Okay? That experience of pleasant, unpleasant, I know this is hard to get. I'm not trying to make, but pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral is the karmic ripening from your past actions. Positive actions result in a pleasant feeling. Negative actions result in a unpleasant feeling. Neutral actions result in a neutral feeling. Okay, most of what we have are positive. We also have a lot of neutral, obviously. So we notice the positive and negative events. Okay, anger, when it arises, has those 5 always present, but now anger is also present, and so all of these resemble anger. The mind is said to resemble anger. It does not become anger. It takes on the aspect of anger. It's all jargon. So my guess is that probably the feeling with that moment of anger is unpleasant because you have an aversion. It's, you're mad that this happened. So anyway, but the next moment, and then you have another moment, and another moment, and another moment, and so you might not have the state of mind anger, you might have the state of mind revenge, or the state of mind resentment, or the state of mind, whatever. Lots of them.
You said every state of mind has 5 always present what?
Mental factors or states of mind.
The overlap is interesting.
And the mental factors are not.
Class 1.
Okay.
So mental factors are what sort of the main mind just knows the mere entity of its object. The mental factors, it's what's just reflecting the object. The mental factors are what, the layers that we add to it. It fills in the attributes, whether we think it's good or bad, whether we, like it, don't like it, whether, we want more of it, don't want more of it, whatever. So the states of mind are the details. The mind is just, whatever object, every mind has an object. That's how it's defined. Consciousness doesn't have a not. Every moment of awareness has an object. That object does not have to be, external. It can be a concept, an idea. Yes.
Speaking about feelings, I was told a long time ago that feelings are neither right or wrong, they just are.
Right. So that's that pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It's just a karmic ripening though. The cause for that are positive actions. That's why we say positive actions of body, speech, and mind lead to happiness. Negative actions of body, speech, and mind lead to suffering. And it's a
quite a wide range from just mere irritation to devastating horror. So, wow, it's 9 o'clock.
Wow. That went fast. For us.
See, this is looking at the, I love talking about mind. Looking at the mind is interesting. So it's not something to be afraid of. It's a curiosity. And it's a very useful thing to be curious about. And this is why you really want gentleness, friendliness, not judgmental. You want to observe with a non-judgmental mind. You just observe. You don't sit there going, I'm a terrible person. There I am again. Terrible again. Terrible again. Terrible again. That won't help. I mean, it's a natural thing to do because we practice that. We're very good at judging. So, but it's helpful to just look. Remember that we're doing this so that we can have more positive states of mind. So we don't really need to practice negative states of mind while we're doing it. It's counterproductive. But so we're doing it for a really good reason. Yeah, so it's helpful. Okay. So next week we start how to meditate. Those who are taking the test are coming early to take their test. It might take longer than 30 minutes. Depends on you guys. I don't know. Yeah, so come. I'll be here probably at 6:15. At least I got it on my calendar to be here at 6:15. But whatever. It might be really fast. They're not long essay questions. Just reassure.
They could be essay questions, but short.
They're short answer questions. That's exactly right. They're not multiple choice. So we went to that at one point. The people who had to grade them it didn't have a lot of time. So, okay, how we feeling? So we're joints, and it's a big deal to try to look at these things from a completely different point of view, and the good thing about doing such activities, it sort of helps us let go of our grasp of thinking we already know and keeps our mind open and curious. And, so that just opens up all kinds of possibilities for us, whether you take this Buddhist path, at all, but it's just getting rid of that habit of thinking, I already know, or this isn't important or whatever, blocks us. So it's really wonderful to spend your time this way. So we can be very happy about it. We can be happy we weren't the only people in the room doing it, yay. Not only that, this course is taught all over the world. So, there are other people apparently are trying to do this. So that's cool too. So, and we're doing it with the motivation to try to, be happier people. And happier people, don't cause as much harm. So this is good for everybody. So it's not even a selfish thing to do. So yay. So we're going to feel good about all those things, And so now we want to just, if feeling is the ripening of our past actions, we've created the cause to have pleasant experiences in the future. And we want to share that. We want to just dedicate all of our, whatever positive results and seeds we planted on our mental continuum, that whatever those results are, may they ripen, until, may they last until there's no suffering sentient beings left. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's it. And we're off. Welcome. So, I don't need to say on it.
The teachers.